Good evening, friends. I am Pankaj Yadav. I am welcoming all of my viewers on my YouTube channel, Root IS. Today, I am going to discuss about economic issues, which is one of the very relevant topic, which is expected to know each and everybody. All of you are aware about this fact that Government of India is ready to preparing for the budget for the next year, 2025-26 financial year. That is why entire economic, activities and economic survey and economic data from the different department is asking by the economic affairs and the department which is responsible for the budget preparedness. That is why government is focusing and ready to introduce budget on the parliament floor in the upcoming month, in the February, 1st of February, budget bill introduced by the finance minister on the parliament floor. So in that process, you are well aware with this fact that each and entire government, I am not talking about only India, but rest of the world, rest of the democratic world, where government is trying to boost economic growth, and economic growth should be distributed from top to bottom. That we call trickle down effect. That means the economic growth and wealth must be distributed amongst the downtrodden people. Okay, and that is why from here the concept arising inclusive development. Inclusive development is one of the top priority of the government. That is why, because after India got its independence in 1947, and after almost 17 years have been passed, and one of the basic problems that accumulation of wealth is getting, collecting from some people. So it should be distributed in democratic manner. That is why government is trying, first priority of the government to increase economic growth, and second priority of the government that economic growth should be distributed among the downtrodden people. So right now, if you look at the health of the Indian economy, so on general basis, you can divide the economic activity in three phases. In three parts, you can say the primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. So from independence, if you look at the performance of the sectors of the economy, the primary sector, the contribution of primary sector in Indian economy is getting decreased year by year, getting decreased. And secondary sector is performing well, but not up to the mark. But tertiary sectors contributions in the Indian economy is very much satisfactory level. So the 55 and 60% contribution of service sector in Indian economy. And whereas if you look at the data, the primary sector performance or primary sector contributions that agriculture and allied sector contributes in Indian economy almost 20 and 21%. And secondary sector contribution is almost 30%. And service sector is contributed to 55 and 60%. So this is one of the most, very practical challenge before Indian economy. If you are not balancing the entire, sector and entire, fields of economy, until you will not get the fruitful results. That is why the economic imbalance is arising over here. So that is why government is trying their best to level the performance of each and every sector and boost Indian economy according to the need of the sectors. So in that process, if you look at the government, trying their best to revive Indian economy and providing most of the incentives to the agriculture sector. If you look at the government's efforts in primary sector, so the primary sector, suppose that government of India, central government, have launched a very, dramatic program that we call soil of health card. Soil of health card. So soil of health card, that here in that process, each and every farmer is expected to test their soil, land soil, and according to the need, farmers use fertilizers so that productivity should be increased, and that productivity which is accumulated on the land, and that product should be purchased on the market price. That is why government is ready to assure the farmers that we are going to purchase your produced on market prices, that we call MSP. MSP means minimum support price. Minimum support price is a kind of guarantee to the farmers that your product purchased by the government on this amount. If anybody, economic imbalances appear in the market and market going down, so in that situation you should not be panic. Government should procure your produce on already fixed price, that we call MSP, minimum support price. In that process, and another effort of the government, you should be appreciate that current government launched PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. In that scheme, government is providing every farmers, every land owners to 6,000 rupees per year. 6,000 rupees per year, so that farmers procure the basic instrument which is required to be used in agriculture process. So all these efforts government is trying to boost agriculture sector, contribution of agriculture sector in the Indian economy. Whereas if you look at the secondary sector, popularly we call manufacturing sector. Manufacturing sector is performing very well in the Indian economy. That is why government is launched Make in India program. Make in India program. Make in India program is basically is targeted or aspiring that India should be one of the best manufacturing hub in the world. Every company which is interested to produce any product is welcome by the government. If you are interested to invest in India, you are most welcome. You can come here and invest in India and manufacture any product in India, and you are free to sell that product in rest of the world, in any economy. There is no problem. But government will provide incentive if you are interested to invest in Indian economy. So you are most welcome to come here and produce or manufacture any product in India, make in India, and you are free to sell that product in rest of the world. So make in India, one of the best programs launched by the Indian government to convert Indian economy from importing economy to exporting economy. Traditionally, Indian economy is import based economy. That is why in 2014, when Modi government have came to power, he has launched this program, because the dream of the government that India should be export based economy. India should be export based economy. And if you look at the tertiary sector and service sector is doing much better from independence. So there is no problem in service sector. So if these three sectors working hands with hands and cooperation, because dependency is over there. So if these three sectors is performing well, the overall productivity of the economy will get increased. Overall productivity of the economy will get increased. That is why another major, target of the India or Indian government, that India should be $5 trillion economy. $5 trillion economy. So if government wants to make Indian economy a $5 trillion economy, for that you have to achieve such continuous growth, and that growth rate should be in double digit growth rate. So that is not required that Indian economy is performing well and getting in the right direction, and we are achieving growth rate from 6.5 to 7%. So that is not sufficient. If you want to $5 trillion economy, Indian economy should perform in double digit growth rate. That we call 10 to 12% growth rate. At least 10% growth rate. Consistent basis. It should not be interruption. It should be in continuous manner. And if Indian economy performing with the rate of 10% or 12% growth rate in upcoming 10 to 15 years, then only that target will be possible to achieve $5 trillion economy. Okay, understand? Most of the international, organizations like IMF, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, is predicting the Indian economy that it is doing much better in the South Asia region, and Indian economy is expected to grow 6.5% to 7%. Most of the international economic organizations is expecting that India's growth rate should be 6 to 5% and 7% growth rate. So in my opinion, that growth rate is not sufficient. That growth rate is not sufficient if you are becoming a developed economy. If you aspiring to become $5 trillion economy, it should be double digit growth rate, and it should be in inclusive manner. It should be in inclusive manner. Without inclusive growth, that growth will get wasted. That growth will not be create fruitful result over there. That is why most of the Indian economy is always try to achieve inclusive growth, inclusive development. Okay, so from independence, if you look at the Indian economy, so the contribution from the different sector is not up to the mark. Basically, the fundamentals, if you study the rest of the world who have already developed, how they have developed, what strategy they have adopted to become a developed economy. So if you look at, if you study those economies, so you will see a common feature that primary sector, so performance if primary sector is doing well, that will boost secondary sector, that we call manufacturing sector. If manufacturing sector and primary sector doing well, that will promote already the tertiary sector. So interdependency is over there. If China is looking well, China is more forward from India. So why that process happened? If China have already developing very fast in compared to the India. So if you look at what basic difference between Indian economy and Chinese economy. So China have already understand this phenomena. If you want to become a developed economy, so you should be priority should be first of all on agriculture sector. If agriculture is doing much better, that will boost manufacturing sector, and manufacturing sector is doing well, that only primary and secondary is doing well, then tertiary sector is already doing well. So in the systematic manner, China have adopted this policy, and that is why Chinese economy is more forward than to Indian economy. And from here, India lacks policy lacking. If you see, you can say policy default over there from independence. Indian policy makers are not focusing well on agriculture sector. So already that is why imbalance creates. In Indian economy, service sector is doing well, and after that manufacturing sector is doing well, and after that agriculture sector. That is why that imbalance creates. That's be far behind on the development path. So if Indian economy wants to do well in the near future, so it should be focused on primary sector and allied sector, and after that manufacturing sector. And if both sectors are doing well, so already it will provide boost for the tertiary sector. Okay, so that is why government is trying their best. And right now, if you see the current scenario, that eighth pay commission, central government have announced to set up 8th pay commission to the government employees and pensioners. Why government have adopted this policy? So this is a general phenomena that government will set up pay commission after every 10 years. So this is one reason. But there is another big reasons is that if you see the Indian economy, so right now the demand is getting decreased. And if you look the investment rate, the private investment as well as public investment is not on up to the mark. That is why government is trying in the next budget that some tax incentive provides to the private sector, so that private investment in the economy will be boosted. And government trying their best as part of public expenditure, but private investment should be attracted by the government. In that process, government should provide tax incentives to the private investors, and tax relief is needed over there. That is why the foreign investors will attract to the Indian economy. Otherwise, the foreign investors is attracting towards China or some other economies where there is a cheap labor, where there is a tax incentives. Okay, so the government should focus on this process, tax incentive number one, and try to provide skilled labor and cheap labor. Cheap labor, tax incentives, and SEZ, special economic zones. So government try to set up more and more special economic zones that will boost Indian economy. And private investment, how private investment will be increased? So in the direct taxes, so tax lid, there is an emergency to revise the tax rates. So if government is not going to impose heavy tax that we call direct tax, if direct tax will be decreased by the government, so that will result the personal disposable incomes will be increased. Personal disposable incomes will be increased, and personal disposable incomes if we have, then we are aspiring to invest in the market. So with the result that the demand of the economy will be increased. And another major factors that RBI's effort is also more important in that process. Monetary policy is developed by RBI, so some tax rates should be cutting down, such as CRR, SLR, bank rate, that should be minimized, that should be decreased, that should be cut, so that personal disposable incomes increased and demand of the economy will be increased. So demand and supply if balanced, then inflation should be managed. Okay, and next video I will discuss more about this. Okay, thanks.